I'm gonna relive it for the last time. The last.
I'll go. Okay. Okay.
I'd like to call today's meeting of the Chehalem Park and Recreation District Board of Directors. And I got to turn on my mic, and everybody else does too. Appreciate everybody being here today on this nice warm day. It's cooler than it was, so that's a good thing. But Jason, I was wondering if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'd love to do it.
Lord, please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, roll call, Jason, Nick, Matt, Brandon, everyone is here for the board. So thank you for coming. Next on the agenda is item 4, because we've gone through 3, and that's going to be approval of conditions, additions to the agenda, and we do have one, and Clay, could you cover that for us, what we're doing for that?
So that agenda was part of addenda number 1 that we published earlier this week, and so it's approved the purchase of a Park Works truck for $53,984.68. So that's an additional item on the consent agenda, so you'll see it under 5J.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to see if someone would give me a motion to approve our consent agenda for today.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Okay, can I have just a roll call of all those in favor?
Aye. Jason Fields.
Jason?
Aye, Nick Conan.
Let me call the roll call.
Okay.
All
there
right,
you
so
go.
Director Fields,
Yes.
Director Conan,
Yes.
Chairman McMaster,
Yes.
Director Slider,
Yes.
Director Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're already at public participation, and that was quick, which I like, but this might slow down right now, so we'll see. Anyway, I'd like to read something concerning public participation so we all know before we start.
Could I interrupt
Anyway,
real quick? There's also the meeting minutes.
right, but
Is
that was
that
part of the...
built into the agenda?
Those are part of the consent
Part of the
agenda.
consent agenda.
Thank you, though.
My apologies.
And another thing, we've got new board members here, so if we mess up, we'll work on it, so everybody knows. Thank you for participating in the public comment this evening. The public comment period is an essential part of our local government meetings. Each person has 3 minutes to speak, but I can extend that. If it's up to the president if they'd like to do that, so I have that ability to do that. Generally, dialogue from multiple citizens concerning the same issue will be held to a limit of 30 minutes total. So I hope we don't have public comment for 30 minutes, but if we do, it'd be great to hear what all of you think about the Park District. Our governing body takes the input into consideration. However, in observance of Oregon open meeting laws, this isn't the time for dialogue, but rather a time for us to listen to you. I have a sign-in sheet, which I talked about earlier with folks that came in. Anyone joining us remotely who wishes to provide comment can notify the meeting monitor now by clicking and raising the hand icon. I don't know if anybody's on. And I will add that you to the quay. The superintendent may direct staff to follow up with you regarding your comments or questions, and provided with contact information on the form. Before you make your comment, please state your name and address for the record. So with that said, we have two folks that have turned in information prior to this meeting. If I can find it. So we have a presentation for the Ewing Young Park Bridge Project by Ed Friedenberg. So if you could stand, Ed, and give us your name, full name and address, please.
Okay, first of all,
Wanna do him after?
my address is 9875 Northeast Meadow Loop. I think that's what you asked. Hard of hearing.
Okay.
Ed, would you mind, would you mind going to the mic that's back there?
Okay.
Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Dialed in now, Ed.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay.
My name's Ed Friedenberg, 9875 Meadow Loop, Newberg. What else did you ask?
You're good.
I'm good, okay. So, yeah, I'm gonna talk about the CPRD's 11 acres that a couple years ago, Yamhill County denied the ability to actually develop that. So, a little bit of full disclosure.
Closer to the mic.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Just speak into the mic if you can.
Speaking
That's
of the
better.
mic. Want me to get down on my knees? Okay, I'll lean over a little bit. Yeah, full disclosure, I'm not a land use expert. I'm an engineer. I have degrees in civil engineering, nuclear engineering. I worked at the Hanford site for 34 years in nuclear facility design, but mainly cleanup of the Hanford site. So I do have experience with nuclear safety and environmental regulations. As I said, well, I didn't say it, but I retired in 2010, 15 years ago. We moved down here to be close to the grandkids. We moved into Hidden Meadows development, which is just on the other side of Chehalem Creek, and there's 7 lots in our development that actually share a property line with your 11 acres. So the first CPRD meeting I attended was in July 2023. I think it was shortly after you'd received notice that the county had denied your permit application. And that what I understood at the time was that you decided at that meeting, the board decided at that meeting that they were not going to appeal the decision to LUBA, but rather negotiate with county commissioners or the county planning department. Okay, I use the Ewing Young Park trails quite a bit. I like to think of myself as being physically fit. I used to run marathons, used to play masters basketball. I can't do that anymore because I've got an artificial knee and an artificial ankle that I probably wore out. So one of the things I like to do is walk in the park. And actually in the spring of this year, I started walking pretty regularly with our dog. We have 2 dogs and a cat. My wife Barbara here. 2 dogs and a cat, and I take her dog in the park. It's something he loves to do. And I do that 2 or 3 times a week. So the way I get there is we drive out of our neighborhood, get onto Dayton Avenue, go across the Chehalem Creek, get into the city limits of Newberg, turn right on 5th Street, and then drive down Blaine to get to the park where there's parking. So the trails, I would say, they're very well maintained, wood chip covered. My dog loves it. I say Barb's dog loves it. Across a large part of the trail goes along Chehalem Creek, and of course on the other side there's this nice flat area you want to develop. So I anticipate when I'm 80 now, I'm hoping that when I'm 90, I can still walk that trail, but it'd be a lot easier if I were able to walk on a flatter terrain. So I started looking into why your permit to develop that property had been denied. I've done some research on that. My objectives in this meeting are hopefully to get an update from the board or from the director on what actually happened as a result of negotiating with, or meeting with county and the planning department. So as part of my, started to look into the documentation. I actually went to the planning department a couple weeks ago, and they downloaded for me on a thumb drive 446 pages of information that had been collected and I guess was reviewed by the commission, by the county commissioners, and or at least was available to review. Some interesting stuff in there. Also reviewed the board order 23-168, I think it is, that denied the permit application. Reviewed the Yamhill County zoning ordinance, planning ordinances for AF10 zone and PRO. Reviewed the, I guess, the major basis why the permit application was denied was a decision by the Land Use Board of Appeal back in 2018. It's Van Dyke versus Yamhill County. So I went on the LUBA website and downloaded that case and read that. It's about 27 pages, and there's only about a page and a half that deals with AF10 zoning. And then I did some field work. I wanted to go out and look at Yamhill County parks to see how the county actually applies its own zoning rules to its own parks. So at this point, I wonder if are you going to be able to display some of the few graphs or some of the photos that I sent in?
We can help with that. Richard, would you please bring up Mr. Friedenberg's slides? There you go. And
Okay, there we go.
And if you'll just say aloud when you want the slide to change, our eye in the sky will advance it for you.
Let me see what you said. Okay, yeah. We'll start with Ed Grenfell Park. And I think the board has copies of the
We do.
the location maps and description of the parks. So this one is typical of, I think I've got 4 there I would like you to look at. But if you go to the next slide. Okay, there's an access bridge to get into the park off of Baker Creek Road. Next slide, please. Also a footbridge within the park. That's a photo of the footbridge. Let's go to the next one. I'm going to make a point about footbridges and access bridges. Next one is Blackwell Park, which is, as I recall, it's out north of Sheridan. And it has an access bridge. That's a couple of photos of the access bridge. And I'm not sure what the name of the creek is it runs under it. Anyway, another one I looked at was Deer Creek Park, which is you have to go down 99 West, turn on Gopher Valley Road, and go up about 7 miles. And this one is kind of interesting because they have within the park they have this boardwalk where you go out to a viewing area. Very nice. I've been out there. Next photo shows a bridge across Deer Creek, and you can see it's about 4 feet off the ground, but you can't actually walk on it. I've talked to the person in charge of parks at the Yamhill County Public Works Department. Asked him why that is the way it is, and he said, well, a couple years ago they had to replace the bridge, the vehicle bridge across Deer Creek Park, or Deer Creek, and so they wanted to have people still have access to the park, so they developed another area before you get to the creek, and they had a temporary stairs, I guess, at both ends of that, so you could walk across the bridge across Deer Creek and get into the park. And let's see. And I think that's all I want to show. Okay, here's another one. This is not, let's back up a bit. Let's back up. Let's not show this one yet. This is there's another view of the access bridge. The point I want to make here is that, okay, these are county parks. They're not specifically identified in the zoning ordinance for parks, which is PRO, and they're actually allowed, though, under the definition of accessory use, because both for Yamhill County parks designated PRO, or for AF10 district, which your 11 acres is, there's a term, as a permitted use, they allow accessory use. So the root word of accessory is access. So the intent, I'm sure, both for AF10 zoning and for PRO zoning, is to allow access. Accessory means, I guess the term is incidental or secondary, as defined in the codes. So that's pretty much all I wanted to. Well, okay, let's go back. Let's go to the next slide. The other thing I wanted to show that you had up there a minute ago. Yeah, this is Dayton Avenue. Goes across Chehalem Creek. I drive across that to get to the park. That's actually in a AF10 zone. It's underneath and on both sides, and it's a little bit north of where your 11 acres is, but you actually, that's actually, strictly speaking, a violation of the AF10 code, unless there's some, I'm guessing the Dayton Avenue was there before the zoning ordinance, so I don't know, maybe there's a grandfather clause or something, but I didn't try to go out to any other AF10 zoned areas to see what kind of quote-unquote transportation facilities they have. Okay, so now let's go to, okay, with that said, what I've given the board here, let me see if I can find it again. Okay, I have a little stoplight chart, which I hope you have in your packets for visitors. I put a stack of them over on the table over there. And this is kind of I'm not really going to talk about this because the only way this is the most important part of the presentation. And it's a list of reasons why I try to compare 418 for the Luba decision on Van Dyke versus Yakima County, both in AF10 zone or in PRO zone. Those access bridges and footbridges would be allowed as an accessory use. In 2023, okay, I read the board order 23-168, and I refer to it here as the flawed transportation facility theory. In other words, it looked like the county commissioners or the planning department had to work really hard to come up with a reason to deny CPRD the ability to develop their 11 acres, while at the same time protecting their parks, which also don't explicitly allow access bridges or footbridges, and yet they are allowed under accessory use. So, bottom line is, again, I'm not going to talk about this, it'd be boring. It would take too much time because I was told I have 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And in fact, the best way to deal with this, you got to sit down and read it, look at the references, come to your own conclusions. But in my view, there were some, in my view, the approach is, okay, let me try to explain. It seems like the county came up with this term, transportation facilities. It's not in the zoning ordinances. It's a term used in a planning goal for the state of Oregon. And it's misrepresented in the 23-168 decision. And as far as I can tell, that's why your permit application was denied. Now, I'm not going to say any more about it. I think I would recommend you read it and see if you have any issues with it. I'm just going to ask if there are any questions. I'll be happy to respond to questions if you have them.
Yeah, full disclosure, Ed had contacted me prior to this meeting, and I said he could have the time. So just so everyone knows that. Is there any questions by the board? I can say that I know that our superintendent has been working on this, and we are still at the point where we'd like to see that happen for sure. So the best thing that I think you could do for now is to be able to reach out to Clay, and he can give you an update on where we're at and where we're going with this. But I know that it's been on our docket for a long time, and we need to come to a conclusion on this soon. So thank you for coming. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay, next we have Mike Caruso with Newberg Noon Rotary request for a peace poll.
Thank you for allowing me to come and present my request. I'm Mike Caruso. I live at 176 Southwest Hemlock Street in Dundee, and member of the Rotary Club of Newberg and the chair of the Peace Committee there. And in 2017, we had a project. It was a district-wide, which our district covers the northern part of the state of Oregon. And there was a challenge put forth, actually by Al Jubitz, who's a member of the Portland Rotary Club, and I was invited to a meeting, the mayor of Portland and the police chief in Portland and some other Rotary, several Rotary leaders. And basically, I'm not quite sure I was invited because it was for Portland, but anyway, the idea was to see how Rotary and Rotarians could help the situation in Portland. And one of the Rotarians from Lake Oswego said that they had put up peace poles at all of the middle schools in Lake Oswego and had a really good response from the community. And then the police chief of Portland spoke up and he said, you know, I'd love to put in a peace pole at every one of our 8 precincts in Portland. And that started the ball rolling. Al Jubitz asked for someone to chair, and nobody raised their hand, so he hired somebody to take it over. And so in Newberg, I spoke with members of our Peace Committee, and we have a joint committee with the 2 Rotary clubs, the Morning Club and the Noon Club. At the time, there was not the Friday Club, the Chehalem Valley Club. But we put forth a challenge for 50 peace poles in Newberg. The goal was 100 peace poles in the state, in the northern part of the state in our district. So we figured this was kind of aggressive. And the chair said that if we put in 50 peace poles, he would have Channel 8, Channel 6, Channel 12, the Oregonian, everybody out. So anyway, we got to work on it, and we came to the Park and Rec Board and asked if we could get 10 peace poles for various parks in the district. And you said yes, and we picked them out. And we also went to the city council, and they gave us 7 poles, the fire department, the police department, public works department, and so on and so forth. And then we went to Newberg Public Schools, and they said, yeah, they would like one at every school, plus at the school district office, and so on. Anyway, we ended up putting in 53 peace bowls. Channel 8, Channel 6, Channel 12 did not come out. Oregonian did not come out, but hey, we got the polls, and we've been working on it ever since. We've been increasing it, and we're up to about 80 polls now. And we're having an event on the 21st of September, which is the United Nations International Day of Peace. And we're having a musical event. We're having a George Fox musical group, followed by Ben Rice and the PDX Hustle. We're going to be doing a carnival for the kids. We're working with the Newberg Public Schools on that. And we have food carts, and so it's going to be from 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, the 21st of September. And we would like to dedicate another peace pole at the entrance of the Rotary Centennial Park. And I looked at the area with Jim after one of our Rotary meetings. We tried to get a hold of Sean at the Cultural Center. Finally got a hold of him a few days ago. He said, well, that looks great, but it's not ours. So you have to go to Park and Rec. And so that's why I'm here. And one other thing is, if you, for your consideration, we are working on a project to get the number of peace poles. We have about 80 now, if you count the ones that were here before. There was one at Francis Park, there was one at Memorial Park, and North Valley Friends campus had about a dozen around the complex. And so we're right around 80. We're shooting for a goal of 100 by the end of 2026. And there's a good chance that we may ask for permission to do 10 more parks. So that will come up. That's pretty much the spiel.
Okay, I think this is, does the board have any questions?
Is there any cost to CPRD?
There isn't. For the polls, when we did the first 10, I believe you covered the cost of the quickset cement. We cover the cost of the pole and the insignia. There's 4 languages on each pole, English, and then 3 other languages depending on the community it's in the area. And you pick the languages, but the only cost would be installing the poles in the ground.
What maintenance is involved?
Pardon?
What type of maintenance is involved?
Virtually none. We had a QR code made up about 2 years ago, so these were put in 2017. And so I put these QR codes on the poles. I went around to all of the poles. None of them had been damaged. A few of them needed to be cleaned up because of dirt on them, basically.
And can you explain what is the purpose for the peace pole? What is the purpose? What are we trying to accomplish?
Okay, the idea of the peace pole came about in 1957 in Japan, a fellow by the name of Masa Heshigoi, and he came to the conclusion that we talked enough about war. He was a survivor of Hiroshima, and he said it's time to start talking about peace. And when, so he came up with the peace prayer, may peace prevail on earth. And the idea of the poles was to put it in either 4 or 8 languages. Some of them, actually, the larger poles have 16 languages. But anyway, it's a conversation starter. When we did the original one, we tried to revisit them each year for whether it's an event of Earth Day or whatever. It starts a conversation, we feel. And it's not very common conversation in this country to have about peace. You know, we're always talking seemingly about war. And we've heard from so many people that have seen them and have just been around them and seen, it kind of changes the idea of the landscape. And we now have about 700 in the district, and it's still growing. The Rotary International president this past year was a huge proponent of peace bowls. One of the reasons we put the QR code on there, which takes you to the international website for Rotary, also the Peace Prayer Society where they make the peace bowls. And it's not a religious thing at all. It says no non-denominational, all denominations, no denominations. And it just, especially in this day and age, we feel it's very important.
So this is a pole, this is not a flag pole?
No, it's about 8 feet tall.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Does any other board members have any questions?
I do. Do you have any languages picked out yet for this particular location, or do you have any ideas?
For the ones for the park?
Yes, this particular.
That would be for however you would like to work it out. I think Jim and I worked out the first ones. Usually English and Spanish. A lot of them do Japanese and Chinese. There are some that have Arabic and Hebrew. And then, of course, some of the churches, if they have a Vietnamese community or whatever relation. One thing that Sean asked if we could do was get the Chinook Wawa, which is the Native American language, which we'll have put on this pole.
Okay. Brandon, you might want to talk to him later on about the language. So we've done this before in our other parks, and I don't know if staff has any comments.
I would say if the board, because the request was put in and it's been agendized and all those things, if you would like to fulfill this, then I would say you do it through a motion, just to make sure that you're making a clear decision.
Can I have are we just doing the one poll?
That's my understanding of the request, unless there's a different request on the floor.
Okay.
One thing I would like to clear up is the financial aspect. If, for this particular location, before we have a motion, if there's any CPRD finances set aside for it, or if it's fully on you guys, just so it's clear.
Yeah, just all that we ask you to do is put them in the ground.
Okay. Is that pretty reasonable for everybody? Any discussion for that? No?
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we accept this offer for a peace poll at the Rotary Centennial and Park entrance.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote,
Yeah, roll
please.
call, please.
Director Fields,
Aye.
Director Conan, Chairman McMaster,
Aye.
Director Slider,
Yes.
Director Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a comment turned in by Brian Bowman.
Good. Excuse me.
Do you have the clocks up this time?
Good evening, and thanks for the time. My name's Brian Bowman, and live on Melody Lane here in town. For the new board members, I've been somewhat active with the district. I'm an engineer, live here in town, avid cyclist, and do quite a bit of volunteering. So volunteer my time coaching and doing a lot of trail work. Recently, I guess the last couple months, I've been spending a little bit more time in Riley Park after a little bit of a, not a total hiatus, but not spending as much time up there. And would say that we're kind of at risk of losing park infrastructure to disuse, particularly on the east side of the park. Having put a lot of work in up there and seeing that as a huge asset for the community, it's a little frustrating to see that it's not getting used as much recently. A couple years back, bikes were prohibited from the east side of Riley Park. And I take the board on their word that they're looking for locations for cyclists. I think, Jason, your word was imperative, which means vitally important or critical. But we've, since kind of discussed what would be desirable trail-wise for cyclists. It really kind of matches what we had at at Riley there. And I think the cycling community's demonstrated a willingness to, be involved and help, steward those parks. Certainly don't want everyone to take on the burden. But yeah, I am really here just to encourage you to continue trying to serve the cyclists in the community and surrounding areas. Looking for something to replace Riley Park. I'd actually love in the meantime to see something like a motion that might direct removing signs on the east side of Riley prohibiting bikes. Again, eager to work with you guys. If there's ever questions, continue to reach out.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No, thanks for coming. I appreciate
All
it.
right. Thanks.
Okay. I don't have any more public comments unless there is something online. Sure.
I forgot to mention something included in your packet was a photo of a footbridge at a park called Manatee Park. It's way out past the city of Yamhill. And I had a hard time finding it. If you ever go there, don't trust your GPS. It took me about a mile beyond the park to looks like a wastewater treatment plant for the city of Newberg, and I figured that couldn't be a legitimate use of the park. But anyway, so I went back a couple of days later, and this time I found the park about a mile short. There's no sign saying it's Menifee Park. So you might have a hard time getting there or finding it.
All right, thanks. Thanks. We have some action items and board comments. The last meeting, we were assigning positions and committees and so on and so forth for the Park District. We did go ahead and table one of those positions because it had to do with the cultural center. We weren't sure. The comment came up, is there one or two board members they're looking for from our district and so on and so forth. I think Clay looked into that and we understand what that is. But the reality is that it's a little different than our other committees because this is a board of directors position on the cultural board, and so they have given us the grace. They don't have to, but they've given us the grace to have a person on there. So I said that I would like to select Brandon to be on that. He was interested. I know that Matt was too, but I still am holding that I'd like to see Brandon on there. Is there any discussion by the board?
Yeah, normally when we decide which thing that we're going to represent, typically it is actually the board members that state, I would like to be on this particular thing or that particular thing. I'd like to be the liaison here. And in this particular case, we've got Matt, who said specifically that he would like to be on that. Brandon did not. So, I believe that, as Matt has expressed interest in being the liaison, I think that that's the way we ought to go.
Brandon, you have a comment?
Sure. You'd probably have to check the recordings to see my exact wording. It is a position that I am very interested in, would like to be appointed to. It's perfectly fine for two guys that are interested to talk about it. And, if we want to share our backgrounds, qualifications, I've got some stuff prepared to share, and then we can just kind of make a decision together.
So again, I'd like to stick with Brandon for this, for the cultural center, and not take it away from Matt, but I think it's the right time to do that. We could take it to a vote if you'd like. If that's appropriate. Do you have anything to add, Clay?
No, I would say that the precedence has been in the past that the appointments are by the president, but in review of our procedures and policies, that's not specifically a thing that I've seen in the literature review from what the district's got. So taking it to the motion, if it's not clear what the board wants, would be an appropriate step. But I would say that, again, going back in recent boards, it appears that the appointments typically have been at the president level. So that's just precedent versus what's actually written down, but what's written down doesn't show that that's there.
I mean, are we interested in sharing just kind of like our own backgrounds, interests, qualifications, just to give everybody a clear understanding of why each of us are interested in it?
I think it's up to the board if they want to make a motion and vote, or if they want to have further discussion. Whatever.
So I've got some information on why I'm interested, just so it's not, just to make it clear to the public, you know, my background and.
Okay, then I'll make a motion for Brendan to serve on the Cultural Center Board of Directors. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Could we have a roll call on that? All those in favor?
Director Fields,
Yes.
Director Conan,
Yes.
Director McMaster,
Yes.
Director Slider,
Yes.
Director Smith.
Nay.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a overview of strategic planning by our superintendent, Clay.
Yeah, so what I did for this last one, so first of all, thank you to all the board members and everyone who tuned in to listen to that discussion. I know that sometimes those discussions can be kind of lengthy, but I thought it was really important for us to start off on the right foot. We've got new board composition, make sure that people are on the same page, and I will say that one of the things that was really satisfying for staff is to see how much the goalposts did or did not change. So that's one of the really important things for us, if we know what's going on. So hearing the board dialogue a little bit is helpful. So what I did is put together a draft based on what I heard that restructures things a little bit and adds some of the additional things that I thought I heard. And so what I would ask for tonight is to get comments on the draft as you see if there are things missing, things that you don't think belong there, things that should be somewhere else. Director McMaster had indicated several things that he shared with me when we met earlier this week, which I can put in here or I can read or however you like. Jim, I made a list.
Did I give you a list?
It ended up being a list. It was starting out as a discussion, but it was a list.
Yeah, that's fine, because I thought I'd take care of it before the board meeting, so it'd take too long, but go ahead.
Yeah, and so just to share it with the other board members, and that way we can see if these are
That's
things
fine.
that resonate with the other folks. But some of the things that he shared, he suggested a new objective, which would be 1E under Goal 1, which would be to budget appropriately for fulfilling the strategic goals and objectives. That there would be modifications to 2B to clarify language with respect to intent behind the language associated with volunteer programs. I think the word launch was used, so there's some clarification on what do we mean, what are we trying to do. Under 2C, encourage continued volunteer programs. There was an interest in modifying it to note meeting ADA requirements as a part of that objective. Under 2D, identifying some issues associated with the foundation and making sure that we've got it structured in a way that functions for the district. And I don't know if that's in the objective or it's just a comment. Under 3C, there was a comment for adding the word best alternatives in there. Under 4E, this would be a new objective to work with Dundee for urban renewal funding and identify grant funding opportunities. This is the one related to Sanders State Park. 5D, to modify the language so that it says complete Ewing Young Park Trail and bridge, and then continue the phrase. So we'll use that, those additional words and bridge or get added to it. 6A, change the figure to be more realistic with respect to the figures for the clubhouse and the additional 9 holes, and change the reference from 27-hole golf course to just additional 9 holes since one already exists and one is a future project. When we talked about it, we kind of had discussed that maybe something more like 14 million is a more realistic clubhouse figure, and that the additional 9 holes, I wasn't sure, but was hoping Casey could, I don't know, help me, or we could do some research.
I'm gonna say that combined, that's probably a good number.
14 million combined.
Yeah.
Okay. And then 10C, the suggestion was to move the SDC methodology to fiscal year 26-27. And then I think there was discussion, I don't know if I'm making this up or I inferred it based on all the other places our conversation went, was a new objective to establish park level service standards.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I didn't make that up.
No.
Okay. So those are some of the modifications that were discussed and suggested to me. So Did I miss any?
No, I think that I gave enough there. I thought, to tell you the truth, I think they did a really good job putting this together, and I appreciate it. But then again, this could be a very long board meeting if folks add what I added, so.
It could, and so, and I just wanted to make sure I'm not missing things. This doesn't have to be the only, it could, y'all could tell me to come back again, or to give comments and send it to you. It doesn't have to happen. One of my goals, though, is to make this something that's available to the board, to staff, and the public. And so that it's holding the district accountable, and it's creating some better transparency about what those strategic goals are for the district, so that we can talk to the public about what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I really like this document, and I think the things you put on here are in line with the discussion we had in July, and I, as of now, don't have any additions.
Anyone else? It's an important document, but I can also understand that there's, what, how many pages was this board packet?
227, I think.
227, so it's quite,
And there was an addendum.
it's
That's
quite,
not
I didn't
included.
get
yeah,
that
it's
one.
quite an encyclopedia to read, so I think that it's a great start, and I think it's good for the public to see that, so I appreciate the work on that. Is there anything else on that?
I do have a question about making a motion. As worded, do we need to include with all the changes you mentioned, Clay, the different kind of rewordings?
What I would say is if what I just read is the comments that Director McMaster had suggested, or something that everyone is fine with in addition to these, and that with those changes it all looks good, then I would say if someone were to make a motion to approve the draft goals and objectives as amended by the recommendation of Director McMaster, something like that would work.
I think given the fact that there was so much added, we might want to have time to actually review it, maybe bring it back once we have an updated
We can table this and bring it back, although I will say, I was going to mention it in the superintendent report, I'm most likely not going to be here in September. I can table it and have Casey hash it out with everyone, or we can table it to October, depending on what the preference is.
How do you feel about tabling it till October?
It doesn't bother me. This doesn't seem like it's time sensitive. It's
Yeah,
not going anywhere.
I say table to October. You know,
Do you need a motion to table it, or you just?
We can just
I
table
don't
it.
think we need it.
I don't think we need a motion.
Yeah, and I think
to
we
table
need to, because there was so much in there, I could see that some folks may looking at so many things, it might have been difficult to read. But I would like everyone to take a look at it, pretty thoroughly, because it's really important to our district and our patrons. So when you get a chance to do that, delve in.
And I might make the suggestion, if folks send, if you're reviewing it and you have comments and you write them down to even just compose your thoughts, if you send those to me, I will make sure they make it into the agenda item, and then they get shared with all your fellow board members before the meeting occurs, so everyone comes prepared.
Clay, could we also have some kind of a chart that shows a cost and time frame on all of this stuff here?
So I can come back with that for October, or I can try and, let me think about
October is fine.
that. Okay.
I mean, I'd like to just see it all.
I can do something like
You
that,
start
'cause
adding this stuff up.
to me, that would be a bit like a cost and something that would look a bit like a work plan
Yeah.
for these two. So
Yeah,
that'd be
this
fine.
is my understanding. This is more of a general, priorities and objectives. How it's funded is a completely different kind of discussion.
Yeah.
Just because there's something on here, if funding doesn't come along, it doesn't mean we force it through. right?
Well,
So-
we have the money that we have, but it's been our practice in the past to try and attach some of those generally anticipated figures for the future.
Sure.
So we know what to plan for it, so it doesn't hurt us any. And we've used those, so having those figures associated with the expected fiscal impact is fine. We don't mind doing that. And frankly, where we can get that information, I would prefer to do it because it gives us a better expectation of how big or small that project is. So I would be happy to do that.
All right.
Anything else? Okay, then let's go ahead and move on to the next discussion of an update to the district system development charge STC methodology report. It's in your packet. And that might be another thing that you may not have had a chance to go through thoroughly, but it's important to this district's viability, our STC methodology. So I'm going to let Clay take it from here.
Sure. So this was something that, again, as the still relatively new superintendent, and I probably don't get to say that after month 12, but I feel like I can still say it for a little bit.
Month 6.
This is something that to me seems important as I look at it further as we talk about things like strategic planning priorities, which is why I brought it up afterwards, thinking there are many things that we want for the future. So when we think about that, SDCs, when I've talked to the consultant that we used the last time from FCS, and his name's John Galducci, he shared with me that the best practice is about 5 years, which is also what the Special Districts Association of Oregon has shared as well. And so the last time we did this was in 2017, and he talked about the reason that that is a best practice is your goals and objectives can get further away from what you use to calibrate your SDC rates. And you can have other things that have changed over time, which might be the general costs, which could be your land portfolio, which could be any number of things. For us, and what I tried to put in the board letter was that those district priorities have changed somewhat, not wildly, but they've changed somewhat. We've completed a number of projects. Things like Phase 2 of the Cultural Center and the Aquatic Center have both been completed. And those are really big infrastructure changes to that setting. And then you start looking at some of the other things that I'm a little concerned. Some board members have brought up that some of the numbers, we don't know what they're based on. So some of the trails figures, we don't know what that full 79 million is intended to contemplate. When you look at the SDC methodology, only a small percentage of that was identified as eligible. So it doesn't overinflate our figures excessively because it's such a low figure, but it's still there and we still don't completely know why when we talk about it. So going back and being able to look at some of those things, but then also look at things that should still be on the table, like the Ewing Young Master Plan, the Bob and Crystal Riley Park Master Plan, and other sorts of things, that those have infrastructure impacts. And so if we want to be able to do those, we need to calibrate for those things existing. And then one that is a little bit more of a pervasive issue that seemed important was playgrounds. When we look at our capital outlay portion of the budget, we have 25 developed parks, nearly all of them have a playground, and those playgrounds, Brian, would it be safe to say that we put in $225,000 as an optimistic number for replacing those, but we're not really expecting, we're expecting that to be exceeded a majority of the time when it's full replacement.
Yes, sir.
So that's something that to me, when I look forward and think about the service that we give to our community and making sure that we can do those, we want to make sure that those figures are right. And I would put out, I'm not suggesting that the SDCs should be higher or lower. I'm just suggesting that I want them measured accurately so that we are ready. So that was why I wanted to bring this up. And I also want to make sure that any SDCs that we do charge, that they're defensible, that we understand why we're charging them and what we're charging, and we go through it in a rigorous way. So that was why I wanted to do this. We wouldn't initiate this immediately, but it would be something where hopefully we could put something out, an RFP of some sort, once we figure this out, as early as, say, January, but hopefully it gets out there sometime in the springtime and start getting that work done. The consultant we used last time shared that he would generally expect something for us to run in the range of about $35,000 to $55,000. That's not currently part of the budget, which is another reason I wanted to bring this up, because it would likely result in a supplemental budget. Not the end of the world. We have a contingency that can do those sorts of things because it wasn't foreseen. But if we feel it's important, we could do it now. Alternatively, we could also prepare to do it and then execute it in the next fiscal year, perhaps in the summer, or something like that. So those are some of the things that I wanted to share. And if anyone's got questions about the report or about why we're bringing this up, then I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You know, so many people have misunderstandings or don't understand SDCs in general. It might be good, and I know all the park board members are experts, but it might be good to have a work session with the board just over SDCs, how you set the methodology, why we have them, state laws, state of Oregon, so everyone's really clear on what they're, because I've heard things come up and I said, well, no, that's not exactly right. And so that we have that clear and you understand why we're using them and how we're using them, the percentages and so on and so forth. I don't know how other board members think about that. That's a question.
Sure. I really value data. I mean, because whether you're going to raise them, freeze them, lower them, I don't want that to be based on a whim. I'd like that to be based on data, personally. So I think a methodology report is personally, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think this is something that's probably a little bit overdue, and I think it will help clarify a lot of the discussions we have in public and even amongst ourselves. What are we basing this on? And a lot of the information is in the old SDC methodology report, a little bit speculative and aspirational. I feel like what we know now, with the projects that we're looking at, anticipating, and in the process of completing, we know that we have some monies that need to be taken into consideration in this SDC methodology. Like you said, playgrounds may be the number one. They're all over 20, 25 years old, and they don't even exist in our current methodology. So that's one example. And then we can just go on from there. The golf clubhouse, with the potential additional 9, and a lot of the other things that we're talking about, the master plans at Riley Park, Ewing Young, and then we also have the 219 potential development. And so I think we owe it to the taxpayers to have an up-to-date document that really tells them where this money's going. And I know SDCs are paid for by developers, but it's still a tax. And so we want to make sure that we have an answer for them that is as accurate as possible. So I think it's fantastic that we're looking at this.
Is there any comments?
I agree with all that.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see in this chart that you're gonna put together for us, I'd like to know, what do we think the percentage of SDCs is gonna be for these different projects?
So if I felt like I had enough information, I'd be happy to add that, but I would be worried about trying to add it at that strategic planning goal because it's speculative. But for things that are already in our SDC methodology report, I could try and put something in there because there we have a foundation built on there. Would that get to
Well-
some of what you're thinking of?
Well, what I really wanna get to is this $79 million for trails. That's what my big deal is. I wanna know, where's that money coming from? How are we gonna pay for $79 million worth of trails?
Well, all I can do is put in what is kind of speculated about in there, because there's a number with 79 million. But if I recall, the eligibility for SDCs was only calculated at either 9 or 11%. So it was pretty low. And so the rest of it is unknown.
So what does that mean? Does that mean that we're gonna tax our citizens to death to build trails?
Well, it means that we chose not to. The increment for that was only that either 9 or 11% or whatever it was that went into the SDC rate. But the rest would be anything from grants to general fund to partnerships or the things from the Chehalem Park Foundation if we were super lucky. I don't even know how that would work. But it's things that are unknown, and we would have to figure out how to close that gap on that 79 million. And if it's not realistic, then maybe we just need to say that it's not realistic or figure out that it's a long planning horizon. So that's one of the other things that creating that work plan, I'm happy to do it. But if I don't have enough detail about what the expectation is, I don't know if it's a 1-year project, a 5-year project, or a 20-year project. On some of those, and trails would be one of the examples that's particularly squishy to me because I don't know those. And what we would have to do is go at least look in some of the Chehalem Trails plan, but that's a little dated at this point.
Yeah, well, maybe what we could do is just try to figure out, what are we actually supposed to be getting for $79 million? Where's it start? Where does it end? That would be a great start.
Sure.
What I brought up earlier was, I think there's still a misunderstanding of the SDCs by some folks. And so, did we want to have a work session to go over them so that we're crystal clear when the public comes and asks us about them or not? Or do you want to just do it at a board meeting?
I say let's do it at a board meeting.
Just have a discussion like we're on now?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do that and what I'll do is I'll reach out to some folks, whether that's FCS who did it before or SDAO or someone like that, so we can get an expert on that. And I can prepare them to answer some of those things and look at our current list and our existing report specifically about the trails figure and say, what are we supposed to do with this? What's the expectation? And so that they're prepared for that.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for moving ahead with this. I think it's important, as Matt said, and that to work on the mythology, because I think it was 2017 the last time they did it?
2017 was the last time that was completed, which means the data we're using was either from 2017. or
Right, so
even before that.
it's older, so we need to. Okay, so anything else on SDCs? Do you need any kind of motion, or you just keep working on it?
I think staff has a direction they need, which is we're gonna bring back an informational item, study session of some form, then it'll be at a public meeting for the board and the public to enjoy, and then we'll get this started when we can, because I hear that there's general concurrence.
Okay, so now we're down to board comments. And Jason,
You know, I gotta say, it was pretty awesome attending, being able to be at the park there in Sanders Park in Dundee for the kickoff. I think that is way overdue, so it's exciting that we're gonna actually start seeing some of these projects moving ahead. We've been talking about them for years, so it's a great thing.
Brandon.
Oh, sure. Now I got a few things that I wanted to lightly touch on. Yeah, the Sanders State kickoff was great. I hope for the ribbon cutting, whenever that is next year, that Gail and Lisa can show up because they probably had more of a hand in it than Nick and I. And the barbecue was great. Thanks for staff for putting that together. I was really glad to spend some time with all you guys. I wanted to ask some questions about committee stuff since unfortunately the Trails Committee meeting was canceled. So maybe, I know we have one of our representatives here. I was kind of curious because they're working real big time on the Riley Park signage. And I'm curious, just so I can better understand with how committees work, was that a project that was directed by the board or by staff, or that the committee came forward with the specifically like the signs? Maybe Brian would be the better person to ask.
So what exactly is your question?
Sure, like with the plan with the signage and the redesign of the trails, is that from the master plan, or is that a board direction or a staff direction or a committee, like?
Definitely staff.
Okay.
And it's part of the master plan for the park itself.
Got
is
it.
to develop a sign package, of course.
Perfect.
And we're very fortunate to have a wealth of knowledge and experience and dedicated volunteers who put together that committee.
Nice.
The people that know that park very well, the Trails Committee. So with their willingness to help put together a sign package, specifically to your question there, they are participating in that with staff to put that together. There's no direct direction from a board or anything to do that. It's just part of a Trails Committee, right? I mean, it fits right in there with the scope of volunteering and cleaning the trails or whatnot. No trails have been redesigned or stopped or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
To speak to that question.
Sure.
Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah. No, thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it. Lastly,
I would just add it, I can't remember what year it was, the board did approve a sign package.
We did.
Oh,
For that.
okay.
But I know it was before, what was the other, the president before the two of you? I can't remember his name.
Oh, Don Loving?
Love. It was when Don Love was here, so how many years ago
Okay.
that was?
Great. Glad to see that moving forward.
I'm Mike Kent here.
Oh.
She was just mentioning, an audience member mentioning that the sign package was approved by a previous board.
Point of order, could we have public identification of anybody who's called upon to speak for the record, please?
Do you want to state your name?
Oh, you want to say it
Or-
for me and Mike? Danica.
Dana Kemp? Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, okay. Yeah, lastly, I'm really interested in talking about Springbrook Meadow Park soon, at some point. If any of the staff are interested in having a board member be an advocate for that, I'm available. If you'd rather me not, let me know, please. That's all.
I'll say from the staff side, happy to have a board member stand up for that. And just to loop everyone else in on what that is we've had some community groups reach out to us with an interest in kind of helping with a playground replacement that started with Rotary, and then Kiwanis has indicated there's some interest there too, although I don't want to speak out of turn because we're just still kind of rallying people together, so I don't want to put them in a corner or anything, but they've expressed interest and are really interested in helping us see some playground replacements go forward, and we're looking at Spring Meadow as a possible place to do that because it's one of the highest need areas that was identified in the capital outlay portion of the budget based on need and where it is and expected impacts in the future. So thank you, and if anyone's got questions on that moving forward, we'll be sure to keep you updated.
You good, Brandon?
Yeah, sorry, thank you.
No, don't be sorry. Matt?
Okay, wanted to discuss, because it's not on the agenda, but the breaking ground, starting and completion of the Jakewith Park project. I know that the purpose and the goal of this board and coming together, I think for a special meeting in July, was to kind of urgently get that bid confirmed, get the contractor on board so they could start work and finish it by the end of the year. And does staff have an update on kind of where we're at on that?
We do, and I'll hand that over to Casey.
Well, do we want to do that under projects? Because I'm sure that's going to come up. Do we want to do it then or now? Because we've got other projects.
Let me ask, is there something specific about that you think we might not cover in the project update section?
I can hold my discussion comments till
Okay.
that time if it's going to be presented then. So
We'll
yeah.
make sure to touch on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one other comment I have is at the Board of Commissioners meeting for Yamhill County today, they did mention our relationship is changing with Crabtree Park, in that it's I think the term was it's entering back into the portfolio of the county. I think, did I say that correctly? So I think it might be wise to have some sort of an explanation of this posted, or I don't know. Obviously, press releases, we like doing press releases when we open parks, when we're, losing association with one. The park is not closing, by the way, but obviously our relationship changes. And so maybe an explanation of that, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions.
Sure. And I touched on this a little bit in the superintendent report, but I was hoping to be able to talk about it anyway.
Okay.
And so Crabtree Park, following on some of the conversations, so to kind of disclose this, because it hasn't been mentioned in a public meeting before, but there were conversations about real estate transactions that conducted an executive session about Crabtree Park and an interest in acquiring that. Based on where those landed, I went out and spoke with staff from the county, and we're going to be exiting our short-term lease on Crabtree Park. That has been a short-term lease for several years now. We've been managing it under long-term leases for a number of years before that. And the county is happy to work with us. We've been talking to staff. It is still very amicable, but we're planning to exit that on December 31st. They'll take over management of the park on January 1st. And the intent is to have a joint statement released in coordination by ourselves and the county jointly, so that there isn't something where the public has got whiplash about exactly what's happening and what's changing. We're specifically trying to do it at a relatively slow time of the year anyway. And it also gives them time to kind of ease into that through the springtime, and that was a date that they actually requested. So far so good. I was trying to make sure that we didn't surprise your board by bringing this, so that's why it was in the superintendent report, so I could bring it up and discuss it with everyone. But it's something where I think this is aligned with what I've heard from the board previously. It makes sense with the portfolio of projects that we have in the Dundee area and the things that are growing there. So I think this is the right decision. But I would be happy to take any feedback from the board.
Any feedback?
Well, my only feedback would be I'd still like to work with the county as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. I would agree, and I would say that we've been speaking regularly to Travis Pease. He's been our primary point of contact as the director for county parks. We've actually already tried to also make sure we reached out to some of the commissioners that helped us along the way in this conversation as we were gathering information when we were thinking about what the future of Crabtree Park and our relationship to it should be. And so some of the commissioners, particularly Commissioner Starrett, thank you, and Commissioners Johnston, have been really helpful with that in their roles as the liaison to the Parks Department for Commissioner Johnston, the liaison to CPRD, Commissioner Starrett, and those sorts of things have been really helpful for us. So we've tried to make sure that we kept people in the loop so that we're not excessively surprised, even though it's a big change. And so if this is this board and the right way to bring it up at a public meeting and kind of break that news on each new step as it's going forward has been one of the more challenging parts, to make sure we do it fairly and openly and honestly. But I think we're doing the right thing, and I think the relationship with the county is is definitely continuing to be good. We're trying to make sure we transmit all the information we can to set them up to take it over successfully and do a good job.
Yeah, I feel it was the right decision to be made. I was really surprised when I heard about it today in the DOC meeting.
I was hoping I would get it to you all before they got it to the commissioners. I knew that they broke it to their Parks Advisory body, but
Yeah.
darn it, that summer blip in our schedule did not help me out any. So,
All right, anything else?
And then Ewing Young, I know we had a presentation today. Does staff have any, I mean, maybe I'm jumping ahead into your, so if
It'll-
you're gonna, if you have the superintendent report.
it'll be in there. But I will say, you know what, since you brought it up in its board comments, and you're welcome to do that, that's
Yeah.
fine. I will say, we're still working on getting it. I haven't said anything as far as dates. We know that outreach is gonna happen as soon as we can get to it, but we're waiting for a couple of other things to drop. We're in the process, we've just finished one part of the Recreation Ready program, which is time sensitive because of the grant deadlines, they're relatively short. So that's kind of gotten in the way a little bit. More so, the golf course feasibility study RFP is on the street, so that's happening. And then we're trying to move along some other things, but it's there. We're right there. So that outreach should happen before too long. We're just waiting for a couple other things to close up a little bit so we can move into that. I just don't want to have another ball in the air for us to juggle. We just don't have enough humans for that. But I would add that we are bringing on that part-time help from the COG, and that will free us up to help with some of those sorts of things. They're right now working on some of the items for Sanders State to make sure that we get some memorandum of understanding in place associated with some of the infrastructure in the parks development, and that we're going to be as successful as we possibly can be in pursuing urban renewal funding. So we're deploying them in I think the right ways so far. So, but that's still on the radar.
I'm good.
Nick?
Yeah, just really kind of to piggyback what Jason was saying, really excited to see some of these projects moving along, in particular Sanders Estate. That groundbreaking event was awesome. And then to see the press release about Jake with, also really exciting. I have some questions too that I'll hold off for on that, but all in all, to see these things moving forward is awesome. I know this district is awesome. It's staying up on grants, but as I was leaving my office today, I saw the Oregon Department of Parks and Rec put out their grant information. It's upcoming, and there was one specifically in the recreational trail category that thought would be interesting to look into. Like I said, I know you all, staff, spends a lot of time looking into that, but just popped into my mind as I was leaving work today. But that's it from me.
I want to thank the board for all of us being at the groundbreaking for Jan Sanders. I think that was a great thing for her, and that's why I kept pushing and pushing and pushing to get that part going. I know some of the other board members did too, so you know, it was great to see her face, and it was great for you folks to talk to her, and I really appreciated that. Thank you. Also, I just returned from Special District of Oregon board staff supervision training and for a full day of fun. Not really, but anyway, it's good to be able to be up on all the new state laws, bidding and so on and so forth, and the laws involved with that. And I heard from Clay, I think today or yesterday when I met with him, that all of you are going, and I think it's great that you are, because it's going to give you a lot of great information. And if the gal that presented, the lawyer that presented to us, if she is presented to you, she is very good, and you will learn a lot. So I appreciate you guys going, whether it's Salem or Eugene or where they're holding it. It'll be good educational information for you. I'll segue on the district picnic. I have to apologize that I did not cook the hamburgers and the hot dogs, but we had a professional and several other professionals that were doing that for me. You just outdid me. That was great. So and it was a bummer that we had the weather the way it was at 100+ degrees in there. But you know, it seemed like our staff was happy, and it was great that we did that for the staff. So Clay, you and the staff, I'd like to thank you for putting that together. And I thought it was successful, and the people there seemed to enjoy it. So thank you.
Can I jump in on that and piggyback that?
Can you jump in? Sure.
So I would want to say that a lot of the credit goes to our fund committee. So that's a group of 3 employees that volunteered to help basically do staff recognition and volunteer recognition. And so this is something that I think is important for the culture of CPRD. And so to make sure that people feel appreciated, and you can do that in one-on-one conversations, but every once in a while, if you do it through an event where people get to come together and bring some family members or those sorts of things. So there were volunteers there, and there were part-time staff, and there were full-time staff, and there were board members who were manning a grill on a 100-degree plus day. I mean, that is something. Some, even the ones that couldn't make it, sent people in their stead. Thank you very much, Andrea. I hope you're not tuned in. I hope you're doing something more fun than this, but if you are, thank you. So I think that it was really good, and I think those who attended appreciate it. Even those who didn't attend, hope that something like that can happen in the future, and just have that option open, that know that they're appreciated. So
Okay,
thank you for being part of it.
One of the last things I have to say is I read through my 260 pages here, or plus, that I noticed in a little blurb with the summer child care program, we had some issues with the school district as far as possibly notification, I'm not sure, about, okay, well, your spot that you're having your child care is closed, and in fact, this is closed over here, and you can't go there, and that is really tough when you get thrown that curveball in your facility use. You've got all those kids. Where do I put them now? What do I do? So I just want to, I don't know this gal, but I just want to thank Hannah Atwood. I think is that the right name? For being able to be flexible, not getting excited, not getting mad, not getting tense. So I think that was great that we see that our employees are doing that when things come up that are not expected. So I'm sure in your report you can cover that about her, but I really appreciated seeing that in the board packet. And that's all I've got. Now we're to old business, and we have citizens advisory committees updates. The first one is, and I'm sure the golf club, of course, folks are happy because things are moving along with RFP, but I'm not going to, take your time here. So if you have a report to make, if you could express who you are and then go to the microphone when you do that so they can hear if there's anybody here from the golf course committee that wants to speak. So you would need to go to the microphone back there. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Roger Coleman, 404 Ironwood Drive, co-chair of the Clubhouse Committee. I just wanted to thank staff for getting the RFP out. We're excited about seeing that coming, and we're anxious to see the results there. Our meeting in August was canceled, but we had some technical difficulties, so we are now going to meet in September. I'm looking forward to meeting with staff and board to talk about kind of the next phase of what the committee is going to be doing and looking at how we can keep involved with this process. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Pickleball. Is anyone here from Pickleball? Okay, we'll move on. Trails.
Nothing to report.
Okay, so we have nothing to report from trails, but I know they're there. I was hiking at Riley Park.
For technical issues, but
Yeah, I know that the trails are there and people are using them, and that's great, so thank you. Okay, unless there's something else from the board, we're moving in the superintendent's report. Anything else from the board? Okay.
So I wanted to mention a couple of things on here and just put it on. So the first one I mentioned already, which is I won't be here for the September board meeting. There will be some things going on, but we'll make sure that we've got folks' roles known, so it should still go smoothly. You guys have existed for a long time without me being present, so I think you'll be okay. Some of the things that I highlighted in the report, I wanted to point out, Chehalem Park Foundation, it's something that I still feel is underutilized. One of the things that we got feedback on is that some of the sports teams, that's one of the most active aspects of who gives to the Chehalem Park Foundation, and then who they in turn give back to is those sports teams. And so it gets used as almost like a booster club type of a focus, and it comes in and it goes right back out to those teams. Works really well, but one of our staff had kind of gotten wind that it could have been easier for that to happen, and so that's why that was included in some of the finance update, kind of additional ways to make it easy for people to donate to the district. And I think thinking about those sorts of things where there are opportunities for that, your board can definitely be champions for the Chehalem Park Foundation, so don't be hesitant or shy about it. I would say let people know, because most don't. And some park systems, that is a really robust part of how they finance things. So if you feel like you have, whether it's special interests or community service groups or single individuals who are really passionate, it's okay to sign them up for that. But if you think of other ways that you think that we could be leveraging that, please share that, and we'll give that some thought on how that could be structured or maybe more useful to the district as a whole. Contract review services, one of the comments I made on here is I'm welcoming feedback. So we're going to be looking at a couple of different things we've talked about before, that we're looking for an auditor. We're going to be releasing an RFP for that. We're also going to be doing similar things for insurance. And the reason we're selecting insurance on that is because when we went through the budget process, several departments all talked about insurance. Not all of it is something that the various agents that we do, we're pool-based. We use CIS. That's just who we're going to be using. But supposedly some of the fee structure and other things could be beneficial, and there are different ways that that's approached by different agents and firms. So that's where we're going to be looking towards that. So if folks have other things they want, they can say so at the meeting and let us know. If there are other things you think are an opportunity for us, please let me know. You don't have to do it at a meeting. You can do it separately if you choose. Crabtree Park was one of the things I was going to talk about, but we've talked about that a bit. So again, I think that we're moving in the right direction for that based on what I have talked to the board about in the past when we looked at the future of that in different ways. And so where we landed was just that the short-term lease was about the most painful version of owning a park possible. It wasn't great for the park itself as a space. It wasn't great for the county, and it probably wasn't great for the public. So we're exiting that, and we're going to put our resources elsewhere. But we hope that can continue to be a park, and we'll continue to be a partner to the county as we move forward with that.
Yeah, I mentioned back when we were talking about Crabtree Park that the public really needs to be, and I think Matt brought this up too, aware of what's going on. So if we get pushback, which, we very well could, either the county or the park district, that we need to be able to work with the public and see where they're at. So I just want to make sure that we're getting that out to the public.
We will be making those communications available, but we wanted to make sure that our decision-making body knew it before we started blasting that statements of those sort out. So I wanted to make sure that your board was aware of it. You had the opportunity to bring something up to me. If you wanted to vehemently disagree on this, you could do so. And that we'll make sure that we do it with the county, though, so that the public is treated right. And we've talked about some of the other things, you and your Young Park Bridge and RFP. One of the other things I wanted to, that we haven't talked about yet, is Riverfront Reimagined. I'm not sure how familiar all of the board members are with this project, but it was essentially a pilot program. Taste Newberg went for a grant on behalf of the district and other steering committee partners that included the city and the county, so another instance where we got to work with the county, with really the idea of enhancing access and doing kind of a multi-site feasibility study for what could lead to improvements in access to the river, specifically for non-motorized travel. The study area basically went from kind of the landfill Baker Rock site and then down towards just short of Shampooey. So it included our Highway 219 property. And we did public outreach, we did all sorts of things. We finished phase one. There is a report available. I included the links to that report in the superintendent's report. If you have any trouble finding it, please let me know. And include a bit of the actions that are recommended from that report is also in there. The next phase is where we become eligible for additional funding. The suggestion that comes out of the report, that comes from the entire steering committee as well as the consultants that were assisting us, would be that the funds, which is up to $100,000, be split between the two beneficiaries and it be administered by Taste Newberg. Being administered by Taste Newberg is because it makes it easier for us. Frankly, we don't have a lot of bandwidth to administer this. It puts that on them, so they get a small cut of that. But then the district would get $44,000 of the available funds. The county gets $44,000. The remainder goes to Taste for administering the grant and the process associated with the project. Yes?
Does Taste Newberg have the experience to be able to administer that grant?
Administer the grant, yes. Do the technical aspects associated with recreation, less so. And so that's why we would be involved in those. And so what's highlighted in here, what's contemplated based on what we've talked about as a group through this project, would be that this would move forward, and I don't remember exactly what the county's thing is, but I think the county is basically going to do a technical study of a portion of Rogers Landing that is the current kind of non-motorized walkout area that's just dirt. It's just a dirt walkout. And seeing what could be done to shore that up or improve that from accessibility standpoints or erosion standpoints, kind of the hydrologics that go on over there, but also with an eye towards reducing some of the conflict with motorized users that currently exists. Anyone that's going out, you're almost always going towards Ash Island, and it can be intimidating if it's your first or second time on a paddleboard to have someone with a motorboat staring at you and waiting for you to get out of the way while you're trying to get past them, and hopefully they don't give you any unkind words in the process. But for us, what I would like to do, and what I seemed like based on speaking with these consultants and going through the project, was that the property that was understudied that we already control, Highway 219 property, we've done studies for transportation impacts, we've done studies for the campground, but if you look at the site layout, it is a pretty generic looking ramp area that's down near the river. And if a big part of that site is for the river, then it is the idea of doing a technical study while we wait to get some other things in play to develop that property could be really beneficial. And so the suggestion that comes out of the report, and that I would suggest that we do, is that we move forward, we take this $44,000 for a technical study, and we supplement it as needed to conduct the study. Study could be up to about $80,000 is what we're recommending. So it would be that we could put in up to $36,000 of district funds, but we get to leverage that $44,000 of grant funds. And so this is a discussion. One of the things that I would like is, while I'm gone in September, is I'd like to have Taste Newberg come and do an informational presentation with more detail on this. Question from Jim and a question from Matt.
They're not asking for a match for this, you're just saying that's how much it may cost us.
Yeah, exactly.
And the money's gonna come from, it's not budgeted.
The money's not budgeted, so we could either do it as a supplement, or we could still take it from those. Those are object unit. So it's not in the capital outlay portion of the budget, but it's not
Well, that's not really
appropriated at the
capital
line item
program.
level.
Okay.
So we would still be within our budget law ability to take it and use it for that, but we would probably need to make sure that we're not, it would still show up as a line item, we need not to overspend it.
Okay.
Matt?
Do we have any, like a liaison or any representation within CPRD on the Taste Newberg board? or-
We do. Brian started out on this steering committee for this project, and Julie is an ex officio member with Taste Newberg.
Okay.
Did you have any follow-up question on that, or would you like to hear anything?
I know, I just wanted to make sure we had some sort of a active representation.
But that's a good question. So that's a relatively new thing. I've been attending chamber meetings. She's been attending Taste Newberg meetings. And then when either of us can't make it and thinks we should, then we just backfill for each other. That's how we've been doing it. So and I don't know if the public is readily aware of it, but I think the board members are, and I'll say it because we're at the meeting, that CPRD does a lot for visitation and the economy. When you think about all the teams that come here, you think about the golf course and visitation, things that bring people to our area and make them want to be here, we're a big impact in the community. And so
we house Taste of
and we house them, yes, they're in our building. So there's those sorts of things too. So we do a lot, and I think that it's important for us to get to have a voice. So we do. Were there any other questions on Riverfront Reimagined?
No, I just think that Dundee, the county, Newberg are all missing out on what we could do with that river.
Right.
And I think that you see that in a lot of towns that have rivers running through them, they really take advantage of that for their constituents, for the public. So I think it's great.
And I completely agree. I'm glad to see that enhanced access for the river is one of our strategic priorities. I think it is important. I think it's a key thing that the public can't readily access. And I think we should try and help the public with that. So I think it's an exciting opportunity. If there are questions on that, because that's something that's kind of been going on in the background, and it's not something that's tangible, like a park space. So if folks do have questions leading up to any meeting where we're going to do stuff on that, please reach out. Right now, I'm the main person for us on the steering committee, so Brian stepped back so he could focus on other things, and I stepped into this because it was looking at a feasibility study that looked like it was going into the planning world. It's probably going to also be going into the engineering and hydrology world, which is not a me thing, but we'll still be there. So if I need a sub for that, then it's going to be Brian stepping in to help out with things too. The other thing that I put in here, which is kind of new, is we reached out and we used Travel Oregon's Ask an Expert, and we only knew about this because we were doing this Recreation Ready project, and they're like, hey, we have this other service over here that's free. You should use it for some free consultation services. So that's what this mention of an Ask an Expert service is, and that's for some bike trail siting and concept design. The big takeaway from the initial conversation was that they suggested we do some outreach with the community to figure out how the community identifies its own needs. And so they said, you want to figure out how they would characterize what their needs are. Are we talking about youth? Are we talking about intro? Are we talking about a pump track? Are we talking about larger bike and wilderness trail type needs? Are we talking about other things? What are we talking about? Who are the users? Where's the need? So that was some of the takeaway there. So I don't know exactly how and when we're going to mobilize that, but we're still looking at some of the suggestions that came in from them and some of the samples they gave us to figure out how to fit that into the project portfolio in some way. But if the first thing we do is outreach, that's something we can largely do in-house. It doesn't cost a ton to talk to our community as a whole, the bike community and the community at large. So we would want to do both of those things. So that was what we heard on that one. And so hopefully we can provide more. One of the board members, thank you, Brandon, asked for an update on Meals on Wheels, and so this was largely provided. The update that's in there is from both Sarah Larison at the Senior Center as well as Julie provided that, so I thought that was a really great update to get. Were there any other questions based on this? Okay. And then wanted to highlight two other things that are in there. One is that we had a couple of federal representatives visit, including Congresswoman Salinas, which was really exciting, so that happened in early July. And then we also had representatives and staffers from Senator Merkley's office and Senator Wyden's office that visited with us. And so for us, that's telling them about how we've used their money, how we've used federal funds wisely that have been made available to us. And then, I should say that more tactfully, sorry, that other one slipped out. And then also letting them know some of the things that are challenging us now that we're hoping to do in the future. And interestingly, each office had a slightly different take on, I think, what was most important. But hearing where some of those opportunities lie from those field staffers was very helpful. And so we're hopeful that those can be some of the things when we know there's a funding gap, but we get to the right place in a project that we can kind of hop in and make some of those things come to fruition. And one of the offices thought that for something like a community-initiated project, something like Bonnie Benedict could be really ripe because it's relatively simple. Major renovations could be fairly shovel-ready. They also saw there's a lot of value in things like the bypass trail, if we could help make that come to fruition, or in doing enhanced river access. Saw that as a complete no-brainer that we should be making that access available.
On the bypass trail, are they offering any money to help with those $5 million bridges?
That has not been offered yet,
Okay.
but that would be the ask.
But we now
That would be
have
that
like
kind
a
of
number to text when
we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that would be the hope, and letting them know like this is a big project and it would be hard for us to do
Recording
ourselves.
stopped.
I think we'll take a short pause. Sure. So in case anyone didn't hear that, the recording stopped. So we'll just take a short pause till we're back online. Sorry if it's an awkward pause.
You're recording. Richard, are we okay?
Disk space insufficient.
Oh, that's an interesting prompt. Richard, can you hear us and do you see the screen?
So I have a question that's not anything to do with it, but it has to do with this. If this happens in a meeting, by law, can we just record it and continue even though it's not on? Because I mean, otherwise, so we just call the meeting and say,
I'm gonna ask Kat.
We're still live and recording still. It's just the Zoom local recording.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good clarification. But Jim, based on what you just asked, Kat, do you have an answer to that? Okay, thank you.
I thought we weren't recording, otherwise I wouldn't ask the question, but go ahead.
Yes, thank you. No, the requirement is that we need to provide public access to comment as well as view remotely as well as on site. What we do is we live stream on YouTube, but we do not provide a platform to comment on YouTube. We provide a platform to comment remotely through Zoom. So if we did lose Zoom completely and people could not comment, then we would need to stop the meeting unless we could have an alternate option that we do not have at this moment.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
are we recording still now?
We are still recording, according, Richard, that's correct?
That is correct.
All right. And I
We
think,
recorded them in 4 different spots just to make sure we have a permanent record.
okay, well, that's good to know. So the only other thing I wanted to mention, because I know some of the board members, it's important to them, is the childcare infrastructure. The next round was opened, and so we are applying for that. So we've reached out for technical consultation support, and that's basically helping them evaluate our last proposal and figure out how can we get some more points where maybe we walked past a few and score and be more competitive. So, and the rest of it's all in there. If you would like to see it, I suggest you have a look, but that's it for me. Are there any other, I'll pass it over to Casey for the capital projects report unless there's other questions. Okay, go for it, Casey.
Good evening, Board. I know you all have questions on how things are going. The Jake with Pickleball, and this gonna address Matt's questions. So we received a bid protest during that whole scenario of the bidding and the approval of the bid. And so we were kind of delayed on that for a week. And we were waiting for permits. So we gave them the notice to proceed on the 5th of August, which is pretty late. And they are, according to the contract, they were supposed to start within a week. So they weren't ready to start. And I had a discussion with them about making sure they started, because I finally got a schedule from them. We had a pre-meeting before the notice went out. We had another meeting a week later, and I asked for a schedule, and I didn't receive a schedule. They finally sent me a schedule last week, and I noticed on it that they weren't gonna start until the 8th of September. And I sent them an email with the documents and the reasons why they should start. And they conceded and are going to start a week earlier than that, the 2nd of September, which is pretty late. So then they asked for an extension on the contract, because the weather is going to affect them more than likely if they can't get things buttoned up by the middle of October. And they're going to try. If we delay it a year, they won't be able to start until July to do it. And Clay and I both thought that saving $400,000 might be worth getting the project mostly finished and then just finishing up in the spring. And it would be the surfacing material that couldn't get applied if the weather turns bad, because there's temperature dependent and heat and water, rain, and that type of thing. So I agreed to that, and we are going to start Tuesday, day after Labor Day, with that project.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah,
You
so.
have questions on that?
Yeah, I do. So the idea of starting a project in the summer is specifically to finish it before the rainy season.
Yeah.
So their request to move this to an extension in May is kind of disingenuous and, quite frankly, mildly insane, because it's not going to be hot enough in May to finish a project that they said they couldn't start until July due to weather and dryness and so on and so forth. So really, it looks like what we're getting is a full year delay that will probably mean we're not going to be completed till next July or August, which is, it's a little hard to.
We open our
stomach
splash
that.
pad in May every year.
Right.
We also, I've seen weather into late October be 80 degrees. It is totally dependent on weather.
I
And
understand.
We never received
Right.
permits to start that until August the 5th.
And then they delayed another additional month from that. So can we not just enforce the terms of the contract, which are they finish at the
Force
end of the year?
them to finish up before December 31st?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well, it becomes a performance issue based on the materials. So on one hand, I would say that neither Casey and I, nor our project manager from NV5 are particularly pleased with any of the news that they've given us on this. And we feel very much like we're kind of in a rock and a hard place. Because here we are wanting to start a project, and
I want to notify the public.
Want to notify the public that we did do a special meeting with the board so we could do this, so we could issue the notice to proceed, so that we could do it in a timely manner, and they delayed. So we're not particularly pleased about this, but this was identified as the lowest responsible bidder. It looks like they can do the job. The specs are all in there. We've got NV5 helping us to make sure we hold them to those performance and construction standards. But the next bid, even though they're putting us in this awkward situation, was $400,000 greater than the one we got. So there's some concern of mine of, do we want them, we like that good bid that we got. They've got a reputation of being able to do these sorts of jobs, so we're not too worried about it. But here they are not meeting the schedule, so it becomes a thing of which one's more important. And from us, it seems like the fiscal resources are more important, unfortunately. But we also don't want to just outright give them an extension to May that they don't need yet, because that kind of is giving them carte blanche to continue slow walking it.
Well, May will mean next August. And it also means that the spring tennis season that the high school relies on these courts to play on is wiped out as well.
Well, we'll make sure that there's something there for them.
Well, I don't know. I don't, if you have a contractor that's already shown a certain degree of nonchalantness, I don't know how you could guarantee that, but I just suggest that we just push them to work faster and harder since they've delayed. So,
That was my intent with the email I sent them.
Yeah.
I shared that with
Thank you.
Clay. It wasn't obnoxious, but it was to the point.
Do you have any comments?
Sanders State, on a better note.
Wait,
Yeah.
continue on this one.
Just one comment on that. Thanks
Yeah.
for your work on that, Casey. Yeah, so as it's been mentioned, this is all weather dependent. I think for me, one of the biggest concerns is that, they did give everything up and it gets, the weather gets too bad for concrete. If we could have some sort of erosion control plan, something, because if that is
That's
bare,
all part of the permitting.
okay, because if it's bare mud and
Yeah.
we start raining, that's ugly. So, great. And then, the other thing is, and I'm pretty sure we're all on the same page here, but if we can just lean on NV5 as they go through to make sure that those construction standards are being met to the best, that they're being met 100% throughout the process.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. There's testing in place.
The one thing that I'd like to say is that I do not want to rush it. And the reason, and Matt alluded to it, and I understand because I coded those courts before. If you do it at the wrong time, then we spend a lot of money, and it's not going to work. So, the only other thing we could do possibly, but I don't want to do this, is to say, it's not working out, we're going to rebid, and
We thought about that.
get some new numbers, but I don't want to go there. But I also don't want to rush it to the point where we get a bad product. And I don't care if they say they're going to warranty it or not. It's just going to extend the situation. So, it's
We're
the weather's
kind of
the weather's
between a
going to
rock
drive
and a
this
hard
project now.
place.
What's that?
Said we're kind of between a rock and a hard place now, being so late in the season.
Well, I'm sure you did your due diligence, but
did.
it's concerning.
It is.
Better note, Sandra State Park, You guys were there for the groundbreaking. Got to throw some dirt, and Saunders Company threw it the next week, so. They spent the first week doing erosion control, and I've been taking pictures of progress since they started. They still don't have any permits yet. The City of Dundee, the planner person, both Doug Rux and Melody, have been kind of slammed. We've been given approval by the engineer representing the City of Dundee, but they're asking, and I think they'll be forthcoming soon. But yeah,
Well, for the public record, I'm sure they're acting in good faith.
they are. The permits are all sitting in Melody's office along with many other things, so,
Yeah, I'm just glad that they approved this and move ahead.
yeah.
This is good.
So they did they stripped all the topsoil. They're pretty much done most of the grading. And then they gave me a revised schedule yesterday at our site meeting. We had an on-site meeting in the barn. That was our office. So their plan is to go ahead and get all the grading done, get the grass planted so that they don't have to worry about erosion for the winter time. And then they'll go back and start, if they have time to do trails, they'll do trails. And they'll have the roadway to work on, and the right of way, the water line, and kind of proceed that direction. But they're gonna give us updated schedules every week. And they seem to be moving pretty quickly.
No surprises yet?
No, well, there was a little surprise yesterday. They pointed out
You can call that enormous.
the water line was about a foot underneath the soil. The big water line that we're supposed to replace for the City of Dundee was about that far underground, right at the entrance to the parking lot. And they scuffed it. And it's cast iron, and I don't know how old it is.
Oh, I'm sure it's older than all of us in this room, for sure.
Looked in pretty good condition, but they don't use cast iron anymore.
No.
They use ductile iron, so. That could have been not a good start to that. The Newberg Dundee bypass trail, we're still waiting permits. Still. There are so many permits. We're hoping to get, I've had a 1200C since, I don't know, May.
How long do those hold?
6 months, you have to reapply. They just update them. City ones, you just let them know
You have
with a
to
letter.
Who's holding up the permits? Which agency?
Well, right now, it's the Army Corps of Engineers and DSL. They're asking a lot of questions. Those are all going in through Greenworks. And I put the ones in through the city, which is the public improvements and the wetlands floodplain development permit. Those aren't finished yet either, and they were submitted June 18th.
So we're at about 60?
Yeah.
So is it looking like we're going to lose the building season completely this year on that?
If we get something in September, they said they can finish by July next year, in July.
Would it help to talk to a state representative? I mean, I'm just saying
That's
that
not a bad question.
this is something that we need to move, and if it's just in the grind and there's more important things over here,
Yeah.
a lot of
Well,
times little guys
can-
like us get forgotten.
They can work on the road improvements on industrial over the winter. They can't work in the waterway after
No, I get that part, but if there's something we can get going on.
October. They need to get some pylons in there and get an access road down there. ODOT's got that whole area tore up.
Oh, I know. That's why it's a good time to work, isn't it?
Well, yes and no.
Okay. Well, thanks.
That's really all I have for that.
I have one other question on projects,
Mm-hmm.
just so we don't get caught behind.
Rennie Field is another one that.
Just read my mind.
Yeah. That's kind of Dave Parker, the school superintendent, and Clay's hands.
Right, so we're, because I haven't had the bandwidth to do the conversion of the document from a grant, from an intergovernmental agreement to an MOU, that's one of the things we've got the COG working on, so they've been assigned to it and they're actively working on it now. So we're due to revise that, get it back to them so we can all sign it and then move ahead. We're gonna be into land use. The idea is that we would submit to land use sometime this winter.
I just want to free up those grants so we can do other things.
I hear you, I would like to free them up too, because I'd like to do a
Yeah,
little more.
because we can't apply for another grant
No, I know.
until we finish
Mhm.
the Sanders and the other
Right.
one, so. I'm gonna pass it on to Brian.
Other staff reports?
Yep.
Let's see, I would say for special services, this is the busiest that we've ever been. With 11 departments, I could talk for an hour about each one. Everybody is working so incredibly hard and bringing so much energy every day. There's just so much going on, and Brian's team has really been amazing in helping us to make all of those things happen as well. So, do you guys have any questions for me?
I just hear I've heard from the public everything's busy.
It's gonna get busier too, with school starting and youth sports and recreation classes, and the golf course is booming, and aquatics they have 13,000 people, or 13,000 members come through, I think, during the month of July. So it's just, everyone is working so hard, and also hard at things that are extra, like the Newberg Old Fashioned Festival, like the COG dinner, things that are kind of outside of their scope of work. Everybody shows up, supports each other, and works really, really hard. So we're really lucky. We have such great teams right now.
Nice.
Yeah, with that, Julie, actually, one of the things in the board packet that caught my eye that I thought was worth acknowledging, would you mention Brian Smith and what he's done for the community?
Yes, so Brian Smith has 2 kids. One is in middle school and one goes to the high school. Incredible human being. He's the president of our Newberg Youth Football organization, but he also, we had an old trailer that was sitting up at the Riley property, and it was a mess. Rats, mice, there was a, it was not, we couldn't use it. And so Brian went up there, picked it up, took it out to his shop, took it down to the studs, and just completely redid that whole concession stand. Anyway, so we made it into a concession stand for the Newberg Youth Football program, and he did a wonderful job with it. We're gonna be able to sell concessions at some of our youth sports and our adult sport activities. And then he also built 2 sheds out at Darnell Wright. One, if as you go down the path, there's gonna be one, or there's one on the left and one on the right, and that's to store all of our football equipment. And he did that just because he's a great guy, and his wife and his 2 kids are just as great. So we really, Clay was talking at one of his presentations, and he said we have 850 volunteers for the district, and many of those are in the sports department. And so Brian is one of those that's just a real shining star for us.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Julie. As Julie mentioned, it goes hand in hand with basic service and special service. And It's a wonderful working relationship, and we're up to the challenge and basic service for sure. Just some of the highlights lately that's happened the past couple of months. We just went through our 2-week pool closure, and we were able to get a lot of needed maintenance taken care of in the comp pool, as well as some major repairs that needed to happen too, mechanically and such. So that was awesome. And the national softball tournament that we had here, we hosted in town, that puts a lot of extra burden on staff and work in the fields, as well as extra housekeeping that goes on that usually doesn't, people don't notice, but that's all that trash that has to go away. We impact the school district there in those fields, and so working hand in hand there. Newberg Old Fashioned Festival, another good example of extra support that the district provides for an event that happens for the community. That's just goes unnoticed or whatever, but we're there. And then stepping up now with the extra work for the, speaking of Brian, the football program, and then soccer and every other sporting event that's happening right now. So it's really exciting there for staff, and we're up for that challenge. I don't know if there's any questions for basic service. You're up next.
Just surviving the heat of the summer and getting ready to aerate. Just getting all the equipment ready. Thank you.
Yeah. Back to you, Chuck.
I can say that, you know, I've down in Union Park, and I'm going to say that it looks a heck of a lot better than when I was working as the park guy. So you guys have done a great job down there. So thanks. Okay. With that said, is there anything else, the board's pleasure, they want to talk about? All right. Then I call for a motion to adjourn.
I motion for us to adjourn.
Okay. All right. Second that, even though we don't have.
I second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm a little confused.
Have a good summer.
Have a good summer.